Venture capital is not taught in books, and it definitely is not taught in MBA classes.
You had some of the best investments in India, from a Flipkart to a Lenskart to First Cry to Policy Bazaar. All of these businesses have done amazingly well and they have transformed the sectors themselves. What are the key traits that you have seen very common between all of these founders?
Clear vision, ability to change very fast, stellar human beings.
Earlier, we were completely dependent on FII capital infusion. So FIIs invested money, markets went up. Today, we don't depend on FII. It's all domestic fund which is moving into Indian capital markets.
Right.
The same if happens to private market.
Yes.
I think the industry would transform.
It would be a very big transformation. Investment by a venture investor is a high risk asset class. We are wanting to build a team of youngsters who can take change as a constant. Start small, grow as you prove yourself, and grow big.
Hi guys, welcome to another very interesting episode of Money Mantra. And today we have a very interesting guest, Sudhir Sethi with us, who's the founder and chairman of Chiratae. And we are about to cover the story of how Sudhir and TCM built Chiratae in India. How did they start conceptualizing the VC fund? How has it grown so big in last couple of years? And more interestingly, what are the kind of founders that they're looking for to invest in? Sir, welcome to Money Mantra.
Thank you.
So excited to see you here. And there are so many questions in my mind. I know it's been...
Ask away.
I'll first go back and want to know your journey of building Chiratae Venture. This, I think, started in 2006. 2006 might have been a point of time where a lot of us would not even have known what what a venture capital fund is. How did you conceptualize Chiratae? How did you start Chiratae Venture?
So, I used to work in Wipro.
Yep.
And after 12 years, somewhat bored of doing the same job. And then an offer came from Walden International, which was a VC. And to learn about VC and what it was, I went to Gangaram and bought a book.
Wow.
And then I had to make a presentation on what would I do as a VC. I took that book and copied it into a PowerPoint. Okay. That's how I started into VCs. But those were the first formative years, 98 to 2002. And in the first year, I met 279 entrepreneurs.
Wow.
And my deal flow was 279 in first year. And so we were learning. During that 4 years, invested $21 million in 11 companies.
Amazing.
And over a period of time, those companies returned $101 million.
That's huge.
Our major investment, which really did well, was my boss and guru, Ashok Suter, Mindtree. So Walden decided to quit India. I joined another company, designed aircraft, 380 being one of them.
Wow.
And then after 4 years, also left. My contract was for 5 years. And at that point of time, a dear friend and a colleague, TCM and I, and one more person got together. And so we started to raise capital. First time, 2003, we raised 10 lakhs.
Okay.
So we thought that's not enough to invest.
Okay.
Second time, we raised 3 lakhs. We said, no, this is not enough to invest. Third time, it was very fortunate. I got a call, and there's a gentleman called Venkat. He said, Mr. Patrick McGowan wants to meet you. And Patrick McGowan is the chairman of IDG. And I have no clue who IDG was by the way at that time. Okay. And I said, okay, that's a great idea. So I met Patrick. His wife was also there, Laura, on 21st May, 9:30 a.m., 2006, at Oberoi Hotel, Bangalore. I think it was a Sunday.
Okay.
He gave me half an hour. And subsequent to that, we came out 2.5 hours later. And I sort of called up TCM and I said, that meeting I think went off well. And I said, we have to give him a presentation now.
Okay.
As to what we will do and so on and so forth. And so we were still preparing the presentation 30 days later, and 21st June, 9:30 p.m.
Uh-huh.
He and I talked on the phone, and Patrick said, you're raising 100 million. I'd given him a 4-pager note. I still have that with me.
Okay.
That you guys should raise $150 million. I said, sir, who will anchor me?
Yes.
He said, I will anchor you. And I said, okay. And with literally a thumping pulse I had there, I was like, okay, sir, how much will you anchor, because it's important? He said, full 150.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
One single LP giving
LP, right?
150
that was
million.
our turning point. I believe statistics say that more than 60% of funds, or certain big number, actually don't survive after the first fund, because there's no track record. Exits are not done. Companies have not grown. And so to that extent, we nearly died. But that time, we started raising rupee capital.
Okay.
Because it was available.
And it was unheard of, because
was
most of
unheard
the
of.
VC funds have always gone to foreign LPs to raise capital.
Absolutely. It was unheard of at that time. And we went to, and then AIFs had just come in at that time.
Okay.
Overall. So that was good. And so I had some insight, because on many of these committees I was there. And I said, look, let's raise rupee capital. And I sat down for 3 months, literally in Bombay. TCM was there. And we said, let's talk to all the big financial leaders. Most of them said, don't do it.
Is it?
And because it's too new, people won't do it. And so I came home, we discussed it, and said, no, we do it. Because if we don't do it, we won't survive. It's as simple as that. So out of, second fund was $95 million. It was smaller than the first fund. But 20% came from India.
Wow.
That was about 120 crores. And that was the seed, right, which later on, today, out of our $1.3 billion worth of AUM, approximately $600 million, almost 5,000 crores, has come from India.
So that's huge, because I believe, from whatever numbers I have, this is perhaps the largest rupee capital in any VC fund in India.
Yes, and most PE funds overall. So we've been fortunate to have the trust of Indian investors apart from global investors. So typically when we raise capital, about half comes from India, half comes from outside the country. So today, that's been our journey. But in between, we had to institutionalize enormously, because venture capital is not taught in books, and it definitely is not taught in MBA classes.
Yes.
It's a very tribal knowledge. It's experience based.
Yes.
And so you get the sharpest mind and the youngest minds, and then you look for extremely competent entrepreneurs, which India produces in bulk.
Wow.
Okay? And you're investing and backing those entrepreneurs. And we saw that when I started investing in 98, we saw game-changing entrepreneurs. The biggest difference between, let's say, 10 or 20 years back is entrepreneurs are getting younger,
Yes.
more technology,
Yeah.
and less time to build companies, more capital, but that changed during COVID times. It became
suddenly
less capital.
changed, yes. The tables turned immediately in like 2 months.
Right. And entrepreneurs are much younger today overall. So I think that's been our journey. We've funded 130 plus companies. We have some unicorns. We have taken companies public. But our passion remains to back young Indian entrepreneurs who are building to solve business challenges and societal challenges in the country which have never been solved before, and using technology. And there are so many examples, because VCs need to and have redefined the problem they're solving. It's no longer to us just an investment to make money. I think money will come.
Yes.
Overall. We have a VC series that's run by my two partners, Ranjit and Venkatesh, and a team with them. And then we also last year expanded to a growth series, for which we are looking for leaders, but we'll find somebody. So if anybody wants to talk to us, please talk to us.
Very interesting. Sir, so on that note, if people want to talk to you, for someone who's aspirant of getting into a venture capital fund, right? And I'll come to founders later, but if I want to get into a venture capital fund, and if I want to join someone like Chiratae, what are the traits that leaders like you are looking for in a young VC?
I think the first is, there is nothing called stationary things. investment by a venture investor is a high risk asset class.
Yes.
And we are wanting to build a team always of youngsters who can take change as a constant.
Okay.
Okay. Business models don't remain constant. Revenue models don't remain constant.
Correct.
New technologies and new product, they used to come once in 3 years, now they come once in 3 months.
Yes.
Okay. And companies die faster. So there is nothing called constant. The only reason why companies will succeed and why a VC will succeed is because we are changing every day. The pace of change is increasing because of technology.
Yes.
It's going to impact lives, it's going to impact businesses,
Yes.
it's going to impact mortality of businesses. So the individual we are looking for must be so open to change and not afraid to change.
Brilliant thought.
Okay, that's your fundamental, and that's what Indian entrepreneurs are giving us. And I'll give you some examples. We invested in a company called KB Colors. We saw them during COVID times.
Okay.
It's a couple in Pune. They were incubated by BIRAC,
Okay.
one of the finest incubation biotech agencies in the world today. And what do? Their mission is to replace chemical colors across the world. This is in the COVID times. So he says, sir, you should come here. I said, no, not during COVID times, right? But today, they have extracted 6 colors and they have very large proof of concepts going with global fashion players like Gucci and
Very interesting.
and other people, Target, etc. And this technology in the powder form does not exist anywhere in the world.
Completely agree. And it's like, even I have not heard of something like this before.
Right. Young couple sitting in BIRAC,
Yeah.
envisioning replacing chemical colors.
Wow.
Now that's a risk, some part of the risk we take. The best of entrepreneurs and VCs came out during COVID.
Sir, I completely agree. Yes, because they have seen a very different world where there was not a lot of money which was chasing them. It was just the other way around, that they had to build sustainable businesses.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example of what happened in Miko. It happened in every company, by the way, but this is a stellar example. They had to launch a new product. COVID was rampant.
Yes.
I think 25 or 20 out of 8 of them decided that they will launch the new product. The product plan cannot go haywire. So I got a call from Sneh, and Sneh says, sir, can you help us find some big house in South India?
Yeah.
Because 28 of us are going to shift there for 3 months and develop a new product.
Wow.
Because that you become a bubble now. So I said, look, they found a place near Bombay. They all shifted, developed the product, and came out of the house after a couple of months.
Wow.
That is stellar. That's the dedication they have, because if they had gone out from the office to their families would be at risk, etc. But this is what they did. I have never seen this. And there are stories in every single company in the country where they did extraordinary steps.
Very inspiring.
Okay, to build the company back to track.
Brilliant.
During COVID times.
Brilliant. Sir, building a VC fund in India, and when I see your journey, it's almost like a startup journey where you go, you raise capital, you take the risk, you believe in your ideas, your thoughts, your thesis. You invest your money, time, effort on that. But there's also a lot of mortality rate in VC funds. What do you think really has to change? Because you have seen the whole journey from 2006 till now. The landscape has changed significantly. But what do you think really needs to change in the way VC funds look at the market, look at the business, look at India overall?
Nothing. VCs are venturepreneurs. Right?
Yes.
And they're building businesses. They're building to the best of their capabilities, like any other entrepreneur. And VCs also need capital. And today, if you look at the Indian landscape of venture investors, there is international VCs who have branches and offices here, and they bring best practices from all over the world into India, very crucial to the ecosystem. And then you have Indian VCs like us who have built Indian VC firms. One very important thing is capital to an entrepreneur, right? to us, our livelihood and survival depends on how we can raise capital, how we can exit.
Yes.
Overall. And so if you look at capital, I think there's one thing which needs to change, which is availability of rupee capital. We've been fortunate, but Indian government, for instance, gives PLIs.
Right.
PLIs to manufacturing. Today we have 7 manufacturing units under our companies. 80 subcontractors. So many of them get PLI. Fantastic. But taxation on money which goes into a private company is higher than public markets.
Which should be just the other way around because the
Technically
risk is
should
much
be other way
higher.
around. And money which goes into the company is also taxed higher than
Public markets.
than international fund coming from outside.
Okay.
Now, if this equation becomes equal,
Okay.
and let's call it capital PLI, okay, all money coming from Indian investors into AIFs, and that for next 10 years is given a capital PLI, means taxation is equal
Between what is
in public markets and
private markets.
Then what happens is you are not using tax to incentivate people to go to stock market.
Right.
You are letting them take a decision whether I should put here or there. Even then, illiquidity in the venture asset class is negative, but I'm saying leave that aside.
Yeah.
Right? VCs will manage that. The moment you do that, today Indian capital, out of about $300+ billion which has invested in India in the last 6 years, Indian capital would not be more than 12 or 13%, maybe 15%.
Wow.
We need to get this Indian capital to 40 to 50% in the next 10 years on an as is where is basis, right? It's Darwin's theory of evolution that money will come.
Yes.
We need to make sure that this evolution is put into a shorter time frame, and the only way to my mind is to do capital PLIs.
Brilliant. And so this has happened in public markets. Earlier, say till 10 years back, we were completely dependent on FII capital infusion. So FIIs invested money, markets went up. Today, we don't depend on FIIs. It's all domestic fund which is moving into Indian capital markets. The same if happens to private market.
Yes.
I think the industry would transform
It
significantly.
would be a very big transformation because then a lot more Indian capital will be pooled into a company, which means a lot more new factories being set up, which means a lot more employment in the country, a lot more technology. And then one important point, which is a VC's ability to redefine the investment problem.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And that we have done in our thinking right now. Yesterday, our thought process was, great company, let's put money into it.
Yes.
Why? Because we'll get X amount of returns.
Yeah.
And by the way, that still remains. That's our prime job. Okay? Today, we've started thinking about saying, okay, what does India need in terms of solving the challenges which India faces? And how can they be solved?
Right.
So let's take healthcare. Insurance in healthcare, that means people who are covered by insurance, is a minuscule number.
Less than 2%.
Is less than 2% of the total population. And so how do you get insurance, okay, to 1 billion plus people?
Bang on. And so the size is so big. Distribution literally going through physical method is impossible.
Cannot be done. So if I take the paradigm of 1 billion consumers, by the way, our Aadhaar card reaches them.
Yes.
Okay? And if you look at cell phones, it reaches them. If you look at internet, it reaches them, right? So effectively, the number of people on a TAM basis should be 400 in due course of time.
Definitely.
Right?
Yes.
It's not there. So my problem definition is, how can we get insurance to use technology to reach at least 400 million people?
Yes.
How can we get lending to 400 million consumers? How can we get healthcare to 1 billion consumers?
So important and so critical, yes.
Now, if I look at it, you can't build enough hospitals in the next 10 years to treat people. Number of clinics, you can't. You can't have enough doctors. You can't have enough nurses. The only way is to use technology.
Yeah.
Okay? So entrepreneurs can help you using technology to solve the current business issues in India. The moment we are able to bring this paradigm, okay, and we have learned from entrepreneurs, by the way. So Lenskart is a very good example. Lenskart is solving the problem of myopia as defined by Piyush himself. Right? Myopia across the world is 80%. Addressability is 70%. In India, it's 20%. So he can produce a glass at 500 rupees to address the next 50 million people.
Amazing.
Whereas competitors, I won't name them, will find it very difficult. And international guys cannot produce a pricing at 500 because their costing is higher than that. First Cry has produced soaps at 50 to 60 rupees to give masses, okay, through a technology platform, a soap for babies which doesn't cause rash.
Wow.
Now, why is this needed? Because the masses beyond SCCA or SCCA, they can't afford the next level of pricing. So you have to invest in material science. Okay, you have to invest in oils. You have to invest in food technology, pure food. So a lot of R&D goes into producing new products.
Brilliant.
That is what entrepreneurs are doing today. In fact, R&D investments in entrepreneurial world are going to be in the next 10 years higher than corporate world.
Should be, because these are the guys who are going to create new technology, new products, new ideas which they're pursuing. Sir, you have some of the best investments in India, from a Flipkart to a Lenskart to First Cry to Policy Bazaar. All of these businesses have done amazingly well and they have transformed the sectors themselves. What are the key traits that you have seen very common between all of these founders? And next part to it, what's changing out there as you see the next generation of entrepreneurs coming in?
Clear vision. Ability to absorb all inputs. Ability to change very fast. Ability to raise capital is a very important thing. Ability to attract excellent human capital with more experience. Okay, youngsters are attracting people who are at least, 25% older than them, or maybe 50%. Entrepreneurs are 27 years old. So I think it's and by the way, last but not the least, stellar human beings.
Got it.
Fundamentally, it's a human business. You attract people, you attract capital, you're true to your vision, you keep at it and execute well. Okay? Now you may say, what's left? Nothing. Perfection is where people have succeeded to bring companies like First Cry, like Lenskart, like Flipkart, Cure Foods, Ankit, Mukesh, Global Bees, Nitin. I can name so many people. And then the younger lot, right? In the let's say phase 1 of entrepreneurship, this is very common. Phase 2, the qualitative factors are also very common.
Correct.
Okay, but they're younger. Phase 1, the technology part was lower.
Okay.
Phase 2, the technology element and patents being filed are much higher.
Got it.
Okay, just 2 weeks back, I got a call from Sneh. One of our patents has been approved.
Oh, wow.
I never got that call from the earlier people. Why? Because they were technology enabled. The definition of technology when we funded Myntra was, instead of 3 clicks to reach a tone gene which a consumer wants to buy, it's 1 click. That was the definition of technology.
Got it.
Today, it's very different.
It is.
It's into material science.
Brilliant.
As an example.
So I want to touch upon the micro entrepreneurs that you are reaching out to, the very new cohort that you are building. And how did this happen?
So this cohort is outside Chiratae.
Chiratae, yes.
My wife Shalini, she runs the Sethi Foundation. And Sethi Foundation is doing work in cancer, is doing work in education, in hearing disabilities, and they've adopted a school and a college. So what happened during college, there's a place called Shrishti College, just near, just outside, just on Sarjapur Road.
Okay.
Sorry, Outer Ring Road. And these children, their parents are auto drivers, their parents are cleaning at home. COVID came, the parents lost income because nobody could move out.
Wow.
And the kids were studying in college and they couldn't come to college. So there's an income problem And we were talking to them, and we suddenly found one girl. She was very fond of makeup.
Okay.
And so she put an Instagram blog. She was using certain skin creams and how to use those skin creams.
Okay.
And she bought at a discount from the next door chemist and started selling them. And within 2 months, she was earning 7,000 rupees a month.
Not bad.
So imagine, obviously that's a lower income group. And sitting at home, she's earning because UPI was there. So UPI is a big enabler for these things,
Yes.
right? And she started sending. And at that time in Bangalore, if you remember, Dunzo was very popular.
Yes.
So during COVID times, Dunzo saved the day.
Yeah.
And that happened. And we said, this is worth giving them some funding. She didn't require much. She required 5,000 rupees to buy more products.
Yes.
Okay. Today, she would be above 40,000-50,000 rupees a month.
Oh
net
my
earning.
God. Wow.
Okay. And that was the first experience we had. And she became an entrepreneur. When she first presented to us, it was in Kannada. Now she's phenomenally fluent in English.
Amazing.
Because she has to do Instagram.
Yes.
And she's a role model for other people in the college. And she comes and talks there. I think she wants to recruit some people from the college also.
Wow. They have to be profitable from day zero. They don't
Have
depend
to
on
be profitable
burning
from
cap.
day 0 or day 1. They can't afford it otherwise. Now we are teaching them branding. So we said, guava person, we said, you know what you do is when you sell guavas, you have to differentiate yourself. So why don't you print a T-shirt and his name is, his PPT said fresh guavas.
Okay.
I said, print a T-shirt, we are giving him the money anyway. And he wanted to buy a scale, by the way.
Okay.
He said, the problem around me is people don't trust the scale.
Okay.
So I'm going to buy a proper scale, keep it on my cart. Okay? So that people trust me.
Brilliant. Very interesting. Very interesting. And so there's a deep contrast between what they are doing and then what we see a lot of founders doing in a VC funded ecosystem, right? Where a lot of guys depend on burning capital to build the business.
Right. So I think these are two different beasts. So we can make comparisons, but we can't overall. But the commonality is very simple. Passion, hard work, and commitment to what they're doing. There is no question, it's the same.
Brilliant. Sir, in your journey of building Chiratae, you must have written off some of the investment. How difficult is it for you to do
It's
that?
very tough. In fact, I committed mistakes of not writing off personally in the first fund. And I lost millions of dollars. But it's very tough because you're the champion, you're the cheerleader, and at the end of the day, you're backing the person. And now you have to go to the person, entrepreneur, and say, you know what, I'm sorry, it's not. But that's the acid test of building a company.
Sir, how difficult is it to reconcile back with that founder saying, hey, I'm doing this? Because for me as a fund, to go from stage A to stage B, I have to do this. For a founder, he would be emotionally shattered at some point.
Yeah, so I think that's where, by the way, it's not that we have 100% success rates. It is very tough. It is to be handled in a sensitive manner.
Yes.
It is to be handled in a positive manner, okay? But it has to be handled.
Sir, if you have to give a message out there to the founders who are building the next generation of enterprises which really are going to survive the test of time for 10, 15, 20 years, what's that message going to be?
Number one, anybody in the market I meet, I tell them, if they're in the US, I tell them come back to India.
Okay.
I think that's very, very important. Number two is start a company. The first step is to convince friends and family. And the next step is to convince angels. India has a very vibrant ecosystem in angels right now.
Yes.
Overall. And so I think that's your first asset test. If you're able to raise, by the way, third-party capital is also a proof point that your idea may work.
It's resonating with people.
It's resonating with people before you come to institutional capital. So I think take the first step, jump into entrepreneurs, don't be afraid of failing, listen to people, and get some people around you who are better than you.
Very interesting, yes.
That's it. That's what matters. Execute well. You will have to start with paucity of capital because that's the nature of the entrepreneur journey of an entrepreneur, whether it is technology or otherwise.
Yeah.
And some of the best companies have gone through pivots.
Must have.
Okay, Myntra went through a pivot. Lenskart closed 3 businesses before they came into this one business. And Piyush was telling us, I want to close the others. This is the one I want.
Okay.
First Cry went through many pivots. All our companies have gone through pivots. Not a single one, or maybe very few have not gone through pivots.
Because so that flexibility, that agility has to be there.
Agility. You see product market fit not happening, change. If you have to kill products, change, because otherwise you'll get killed.
So, but what happens at the board level? Because say you have invested in a company with a specific thought, thesis, projection, and then the founder comes back saying, hey, I'm pivoting, this is going to change. Maybe you are okay, but at the board level, there are 3 other investors who are not okay. How do you manage this?
One of the roles which board members have to play in VCs is what is called sheepdogging. Convince others, right? Or get convinced. Either is fine. There are mature investors in the country today. And boards are very mature. We have had to tighten our belt in the past few years on governance, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's very, very crucial in the industry. Fortunately, the numbers are very small. But otherwise, you just talk openly in the board. Myntra went through this, and after 18 months, the customized business of gifting was not working. Mukesh himself said, pivot.
Wow.
And we debated and we said we agree with that. I think founders will be knowing what's happening on the ground.
Yes.
And so do board members, because you're looking at MISs, you're talking to markets, and so on and so forth.
Sir, if someone has to build a VC fund now in India, grounds up, where does he start? And what are the things, the traits that he has to start imbibing? Looking at your own journey, things that you missed and things that you don't want them to miss if they're trying to build a VC fund.
You're trying to build a VC fund, it's like building an entrepreneur company.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's important to have a couple of people who have experience in that space. Sorry. And that's very crucial. Background, having worked in other funds helps.
Yeah.
But there are people who have started on their own because they have capital. So I think there's no fixed formula. You're an entrepreneur, you think this is going to be happening, you have access to capital. Don't aim for $200 million when $50 million is in the pocket or 50 crores in the pocket.
Yeah.
Start small, grow as you prove yourself, and grow big.
Interesting. So you have exited businesses at the peak, saying, yes, this is perhaps one of the best businesses we have invested in. It is doing very well. Have you double guessed yourself saying, exit karu, nahi karu? Is it a good time, not a good time? Should I still stay in the business? How do you go through that?
So as a process, we evaluate exits in every one of our companies every quarter.
Okay.
Very simple process. And then we take calls overall. And calls are not just whether the company is doing well. Calls. So Flipkart, for instance, we did 5 exits.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And why did we do? Because no company had gone to that level. Okay. And by the way, I'm not an international fund. I don't have a headquarters.
Yes.
Right? Snapdeal was falling in valuation. Jabong was also falling.
Correct.
And we had sold Myntra to Flipkart, which was doing well. Amazon was coming up.
Yes.
Under those circumstances, we thought to de-risk by partial divestments.
Very interesting dynamics, because it's like Indian companies which are doing well in e-commerce suddenly going down, competition coming in.
Precisely.
Flipkart is the only guy who's standing tall out there. But do we still hold? Do we exit?
So, there are 2 sides of the coin. Somebody will say, you know what, if you'd stayed till $18 billion, you would have made 100 billion more. My answer is very simple. I didn't know 18 billion will happen.
So de-risking was very critical.
Yeah. De-risking is very critical for us. I'm not even saying others.
Yeah.
Because for us, it was market situation falling.
Yeah.
Amazon, big guy coming in, who's spending $100 million a month.
Yeah.
And by the way, at that time, Flipkart was raising capital at 15 billion, could not raise, and they raised capital, I think, at 10 billion. So those dynamics, and we always consult my customer, and that's another story I'll tell you. My customer is what we consult.
Okay.
Okay. Now, for a VC, who's the customer?
The founder himself.
That's where you're going wrong. I was asked this question in 2010. I went completely wrong. And one of my LPs said, who's your customer? I said, entrepreneur. I said,
the LPs?
I will never fund you after this if you repeat the same again. This is the LP. Right? It's the investor. So we have to collaborate with the investor because he's my customer.
Got it.
most VCs today I think realize, but if they don't realize, biggest mistake they make.
Got it.
So consult on exits. We consult our advisory committees.
Because it's their capital. If they think it's good to
because
de-risk
they are
now.
not going to give you capital if
Yeah.
their goals are not met.
And this has worked out very well because you have returned back more than $800 million till
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Sir, you have not taken any bet in the stock market. You have not invested in the public markets. And you've always been a champion of private markets. So why so?
No, I think it's a personal passion.
Uh-huh.
By the way, if I invest in Chiratae,
Yeah.
which both TCM and I, a bulk of our investments go into sponsoring Chiratae funds.
Yes.
Overall. I have very little money after that left to invest in stock markets. But it's not that the stock market investing is bad. There are expertise which is available, like you're doing education to people. Maybe I'll join that class.
If Stockgrow was available 5-10 years back to you, right, do you think it would have helped you start your investment journey in public market? Because the challenge that we see primarily for everyone is one, fear of investing. If I put money in markets, I'll lose. Second, they don't understand jargons. You can't read books and start your investment journey. So to solve that, we started building Stockgrow.
No, I think, look, in any field, education is extremely important. So what Stockgrow is going, I've not been through your classes, but fundamentally educating new consumers to enter stock markets is a very good thing. And that kudos, you're doing extremely well.
Thank you, sir. And so one thing I'm very positive about is 10 years back, a lot of folks had a thesis of what is being built in US and China. We go and build similar businesses in India. Now I'm seeing the tables have turned. People are building businesses in India for India, which are now being copied globally. And sir, I think we need more funds like Chiratae who can identify the indigenous business which are being built out of India and can go global rather than looking at global businesses which can be copied here in India.
I'll maybe, of course, we need more funds, but maybe you can send out a message that
Yes, sir.
more investors from India should invest more in Chiratae so that we can do more.
100%, 100%, because that's what we want to do. We want to build the India story. We don't want to build a global story. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
It is
Good to see you.
such an amazing pleasure to talk
See
to
you
you always.
after a long time. Thank you.